Hey guys, this is Aleesa Harding. I'm doing my informative speech for you guys today. Have you ever been in church and seen a mom getting onto their kid? Or better yet, when you were a kid, did you ever get in trouble in church? I did. I have two sisters and we would talk and giggle in church and my mom would just try to keep us quiet, usually one of three ways. Her first attempt was glancing over at us. While she was singing, she would do the whole mom raised eyebrows and take a look at you like you had lost your mind. If that didn't keep us quiet, she would again give us the mom look, but then she would snap her fingers at us. And usually that was it. We'd quiet down, we'd settle into service, but there were some of those occasions when we pushed her a little bit further. And she would go into that third and often painful last resort to correct our behavior discreetly, the pinch. If we were standing up, she'd kind of reach behind us and pinch her arms. If we were sitting down, she'd pinch her legs. She didn't have to say a single word. We learned that you don't need verbal communication to get your point across. Nonverbal actions work just as well. So today I want to explain to you 5 ways that I use verbal communication with my nonverbal behaviors to communicate with my kids. I use power and kinesics, emphasize, repeat, and add to my verbal communication to get the behavior that I want from them. I want to use a scenario I often find myself in. It's getting my kids to clean up their toys from the living room floor at bedtime, and that way it'll illustrate this to you. So for power, every aspect of our life is derived from a relationship with power. A parent to a child, employee to employee, or employer to employee, even a dog and an owner. The dynamic of power and communication is important. It influences the relationship of individuals, families, and even groups. The nonverbal behavior of power is often used to assert dominance, express difference, and negotiate status and influence. An example of this would be that I'm a mom, so I'm in a power position over my children. As a society, we use the power in our relationships to indicate social hierarchy and influence. But as I use my power as a parent to direct my children's behavior, unfortunately, if you're a parent, you know that's not always enough. I occasionally have to use more than one form of communication, and kinesics can be strong in emphasizing how serious I am. When I want to indicate to my children that playtime's up and we need to begin clearing toys away, I'll use kinesics, which is my body language, to express that. For example, if I've asked them to put away their toys more than once and they don't act as if they've heard me, I walk into the living room, I cross my arms over my chest, and I look at them. If I throw in a raised eye, surely that gets my point across a little bit better without ever saying a word. This example shows that I can communicate with my body language and facial expressions. And while I can use kinesics to communicate many different messages non-verbally, there are also days I have to take my communication a step further and emphasize my request to pull their attention to what I'm asking them to do. So when we've had a really long day, or my kids are focused on whatever game they're playing or the drawings that they're creating, they may truly not have heard me. They're just wrapped up in it and they haven't heard it. I then have to use a more forceful means of getting their attention. I emphasize my desire for the kids to clean up their mess by telling them in a very stern voice that I want the living room cleaned up now. So in that statement, I know that my request was heard, and my expectation of it being done now was certainly emphasized. And as a parent, I often find myself emphasizing the importance of various things every day, but I've also learned that when I request and repeat things to my children, it's just as effective. And when we repeat, we use a form of nonverbal communication to reinforce our verbal communication and strengthen the message. For example, when I've asked my kids to clear away their toys, I often let them know that they have 5 seconds. That's my thing in my family. We give 5 seconds. And they know that they have 5 seconds to get their mess cleaned up, or they will go to timeout if they don't. When I'm telling them this, you guys have 5 seconds to pick up your toys. I'm pointing at the floor so that they understand the mess on the floor is what I'm talking about. That example shows that I can repeat my verbal command, the mess, with the visual one of me pointing to the mess on the floor. Sometimes though, I can repeat my request to them several times and they still have not started to clean up. And that's when I go into full mom mode. I I add my verbal communication to indicate that I'm serious about what I've asked them to do. So when we add, we use a form of nonverbal communication to reinforce our verbal communication and strengthen the message. For example, when I've asked my kids to clean their toys away or clear their toys away, I'll let them know that they have 5 seconds to get their mess picked up or they'll go to timeout. I begin counting down. I don't do 1, 2, 3, 4. I do it backwards. I do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when I say the number 5 and I hold up my hand and 5 fingers and I mimic my counting, I am adding a visual to my verbal communication. So let me recap my 5 points of communication. In this speech, I hope you've gained a little insight into how I use my verbal and my nonverbal communication to parent my kids. I have power as a parent, but as kids grow and learn to become communicators ourselves, we often have to adapt. And as parents, we do that often. We use kinesics, we can emphasize our desires, repeat our communication, add elements to reinforce the meaning. And at the end of the day, communication is essential, and teaching our children to be great communicators speaks to the success of our parenting. Thank you.